Who does Nico Iamaleava remind you of? So now that everybody has had a chance to see him in a bowl game, let's do some projection. Mine was actually stolen. I don't know if it was on purpose, but it was stolen. It was a taller Bryce Young. And I think that's because he keeps his eyes downfield. I think that he is going to be more apt to err on the side of staying behind the line of scrimmage to throw as opposed to going beyond it to run. I think he has very good pocket presence. A taller Bryce Young was my comparison from way, way back. It's gotten picked up by some other people since, but that's fine. I'm not bitter at all. But
Dave,
John, who would be your comparison?
you sound extremely bitter.
I'm very bitter,
Yeah,
very
okay,
angry.
that's okay. There's nothing wrong with a little bitterness. That will probably motivate you to even greater heights than you've already attained. Um, I would
I think it was
probably
Rage
go.
Against the Machine. It was Rage Against the Machine that said anger is a gift.
Oh, okay. Well, uh, happy gift. I will go. I tell you, and let's be sure to point out, we're not saying he's going to be as good as any of these guys. He's got to go do it on the field. We've seen one start from him, but he's he reminded me of in the bowl game of Johnny Manziel, like a taller Johnny Manziel, uh, just making plays all over the field and his instincts. Um, because things went awry with Johnny Manziel, there's no pro career to look at. But if you go back and look at what he did at A&M, what he accomplished there as much as any quarterback that's played in the SEC. He was so exciting, and he lifted a team past, excuse me, past other teams that had much more talent. But he was such, to me, an instinctive player of knowing when to run, where to run, when to throw it. And also, I think that Nico has that gift, and that's based on one game. And he's certainly not physically built like Manziel. Manziel was kind of stocky compared to Nico, had very strong legs. But the way Nico played in that bowl game, to me, he looked like a guy that can just when every when everything goes wrong with a play, he can still make it right. And there aren't many guys that can do that. We've seen some Bryce Young could do that, and Johnny Manziel could do it.
Yeah,
Caleb, I think we forget how great Johnny Manziel was at times because he liked to do an 8 ball instead of Wheaties for breakfast.
yeah.
I
I'm
mean, don't we forget how I remember I was talking to John about this. I remember interviewing Ron Higgins about it. This is the greatest playmaker since. And Archie Manning came up. We have forgotten since Johnny Manziel became a regular at Vegas and lost 80 pounds that he was incredible in college. That is a heck of a compliment by John Adams.
Yeah. That's. I mean, I still to this day find it disgraceful that he wasn't great in the NFL. I told John. I said yesterday, I can deal with quarterbacks who are bust because they have, demons or they're fighting some things or they went to the wrong franchise. Like I give Ryan Leaf a break because I think Ryan Leaf was dealing with a lot and then he went to the worst possible franchise you could go to. And I think that made things worse. I think it's disgraceful the only thing I can't forgive is when a quarterback doesn't care that he's a bust and just collects a check. So to me, Johnny Manziel and Jamarcus Russell are the two greatest disgraces of human beings in the history. Like on the field, they didn't do anything illegal off the field. That like they didn't harm anybody off the field. But like
we didn't get any mention of Hitler or Mussolini
no,
there.
no, no. I mean, like as far as athletes go, the most disgraceful thing you can do is be that good and then collect a check and go home and not even care. And like, I would never give them a second shot in the NFL. I hope Jamarcus Russell blew all his money because that was disgraceful what he did. And
Slightly off topic. Who does Nico remind you of? Caleb's answer brought to you by the Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards to ensure you only receive the best in CBD or Delta products. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Use the promo code HOOK for 10% off. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Promo code HOOK for 10% off. You can't pick Bryce Young. You can't pick Johnny Manziel.
with Nico, there is almost nobody I can name because you're right. Bryce Young is the closest, but I've never seen somebody like him. So I'm actually going to go. I'm going to go with the guy that was just at Tennessee 2 years ago, Hendon Hooker. That's the closest I could get to Nico probably. And it's not a great comparison, but they both have they both have great touch. They're quick decision makers. They knew what to do in the pocket. Nico has just got a better arm.
I think, John, that Nico is better. And hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't to this point. We really appreciate that. John, I think that Nico is better in every regard. Not to knock, Caleb, your Hendon Hooker comparison. I'm really not. I think there's some apt comparisons there. But I think he's better in every regard other than dropping that deep ball in there, which I haven't seen enough of. But I thought Hendon Hooker was pretty especial with that.
Yeah, he was. The thing about Nico as opposed to Hooker, one thing, and Hooker was certainly a great Tennessee quarterback, and I hope he does well in the NFL. He didn't look smooth a lot of times when he ran, and I'm not saying that had anything to do with his knee injury, but his gait looked a little different. Nico looks very smooth, very fluid when he runs, and I noticed that with Hendon Hooker. And I was thinking when I first watched Hendon Hooker, thought, man, there's something a little awkward with his running style, even though he runs well and he has a great sense of when to run, when to leave the pocket. I thought, man, he might be vulnerable to injury. And he never was till right there at the end. And hopefully he will have an injury-free NFL career. But I just think Nico looks so smooth. Nico makes it look easy what he's doing, and what he's doing is anything but easy. When I go back, and I know they were just short touchdown runs in that bowl game against Iowa, but as dreadful as Iowa's offense was, that was a pretty good defense. And I know it was missing a star player, but still a pretty good defense. And he just scored with such ease. He knew just where to go, and it was almost like he just kind of rolled into the end zone. It was it was as though it looked effortless. And some of the great athletes can do that. And that's why one of the reasons I'm so sold on him being a great quarterback.
John, this goes before mine and Caleb's time, but somebody on the message board said Tony Robinson. Do you see a comparison there? I barely remember him playing in that 85 Auburn game.
Yeah, I was a columnist in Jacksonville when I first saw Tony Robinson. I didn't see enough of him though. But again, I didn't think of, I mean, great arm. He could run, but I don't think he could run the way Nico can. And that I say that again, emphasizing that I didn't see that much of him. But I haven't seen that much of Nico either. But when I saw Tony Robinson for the first time, I didn't think, I mean, it's a really good quarterback, great passer, great arm, an NFL quarterback. But with Nico, what I see is somebody with these, again, that makes things that are not easy look easy.
What about Heath Schuler, guys?
I almost went there.
You know, I think if I think of Heath Schuler as being somewhere maybe in between a Nico and a Tim Tebow. Heath Schuler was a powerful runner. Guy was extremely strong, a great athlete, great arm. And of course, Tebow, you know, ran over linebackers with regularity. So I would have loved to have seen Heath Schuler in the kind of offense Tennessee runs now. I think
I agree.
he would have been spectacular. I think he could have won a Heisman Trophy in that offense.
Yeah, I've told Heath this before, and I stole it from Mike Strange. I would have liked to have seen him be a decathlete. I think he would have won the decathlon. Just an all around crazy good athlete. I think he picks up a javelin and throws it like at a world top of length, whatever that would be
Yeah.
called.
Yeah, he just walks over there and said, "Oh, what's this?"
Huh.
Boom, and
There he
somebody
goes.
dies. Somebody dies 200 yards away.
It's funny you say that, John, because there was a string of, the 90s had Heath Schuler, Peyton Manning, and T. Martin. And of those three, and Josh Heupel, not in the NFL, but in Josh Heupel's offense, Peyton Manning is probably the worst fit of the three, funny enough.
Can I say something really quick about the Heath Schuler
Well,
comparison? Go ahead, John.
no, you go ahead.
I was
It's your show.
going to say this real quick. Nico is going to be asked to process at a much quicker and higher level than Heath Schuler was ever asked to. I just want to lay that out there. You can go with that where you would like to. John?
No, I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
You
don't.
had something else you want to say, right?
No, when you're talking about Peyton Manning would be the worst fit, though. Peyton Manning was so good. No, he wasn't a runner, but he was so good in many other ways that I think I just think he would have still excelled in this offense. You would have run it differently. He didn't always. Josh Heupel, you go back to his coordinator days. He didn't always have a great runner at quarterback.
That's true. But
Drew
he always
Lock.
had a big
Drew Lock was not a great runner, but he liked somebody that can stretch the field, and of course Peyton could stretch the field, accurate on everything, on the deep ball, whatever. So yeah, he would have been pretty successful. But ideally, what you're looking for is a great passer and a great runner in this offense.
Kalen mentioned Joe Milton on the message board with the javelin. Yes, Joe Milton probably would have won the decathlon when he was 12 years old, John. Don't you think that would
well, okay, the throwing part, I mean, I think he could have handled a discus okay. High jump. Heath Schuler was a championship high jumper, as I recall.
I'm telling you.
He was a great athlete. I would bet if you put Joe Milton and Heath Schuler out there in a decathlon, I would bet on Heath Schuler. I can't think of anybody at UT I would have put above Heath Schuler in a decathlon. He could run fast. I don't know how he would have done on the distances, but he's an incredible athlete. But you got me thinking, though. Imagine what's a record for the javelin? What would be a great javelin throw?
I'm gonna have to go to Caleb.
I don't. What do you guys think I know?
Well, I used to follow track, but
yeah. And while you're doing that, I'll remind you that Rick Terry Jewelry Design, they want to be your jeweler. Looking for affordable game day jewelry. They got the fire opals. That's a Tennessee tradition. RickTerryJewelry.com. RickTerryJewelry.com. Check out those fire opals. They're awesome.
The record is 104.8 meters. So
I would say that Joe Milton.
Let's don't do meters.
Well, that we can just do. That's 316 feet, basically.
Okay. Well,
yeah. Well, actually, hold on. That's wrong. That's wrong. Someone was wrong when they said that.
Which one?
The actual recorded record is 323 feet.
Well, then I was pretty close.
98.48 meters.
Okay. Sorry.
323 feet. Okay. So how about this? Imagine it like Old West style gunfight. Joe Milton and Heath Schuler separated by 100 yards. One in the football field and the other. Okay, gentlemen, go for your javelin. And each of them has about 5 javelins there to throw. And they take turns throwing javelins at each other.
I'm just going to say this, though. I think there, and Dave knows more because, Dave, you guys are covering this more than I have when it happened. Didn't Joe – I think Joe Milton accidentally broke Jeremy Banks' jaw last year. I think he's just trying to get him out of the way.
I covered a camp, John, that okay, so I'm just going to describe this really quickly. So you're at the 50-yard line, and you run all of your passes towards the goal line so that you can run 2 passing drills at the same time. Does that make sense to everybody? So you're essentially at the 45 or so, and you're running towards the end zone, away from each other, right? I covered a camp that the 2 players came in together. They started at the goal line and they met at the 50, and it cost one guy good portion of the frontal lobe of his brain.
Jeez.
Yeah. So we don't want to throw javelins at each other, do we?
Well, I don't know. I think you'd draw a crowd.
Right.